Okay, so let's talk about something that feels kind of weird in the air right now. You've probably seen this in the headlines. Maybe a TikTok video or maybe your favorite podcaster has spoken about this.
Now, new data shows the number of under 50s being diagnosed with bowel cancer is increasing worldwide.
What is it about my age group you think that is causing this rise in cancer?
Exposure to toxicity. I think stress. We have a different kind of stress today because I've evaluated it.
And this topic makes you go, wait, really? It seems more and more young people in their 30s and 40s, sometimes even younger, are being diagnosed with cancers at an alarming rate. And that feels wrong, right? I mean, for a long time, we've thought of cancers as primarily a disease of aging, something that becomes a bigger risk as our bodies get older and we've had more time to accumulate disease-causing mutations. So what the heck is going on? Is this trend even real? Or is it that our modern medicine has gotten so good at diagnosing cancers that our technology is able to capture it more earlier? Maybe it's all those microplastics that we keep hearing about, and it's having an effect on our DNA. Or is it our environment or our lifestyles, or some other factor we've not considered altogether? Well, today, my friends, we're going to do what we do best at the Scientific Journal Club. We're going to cut through the noise, sidestep speculation, and dive straight into peer-reviewed scientific literature to find out what the data says. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Krutik, I'm a scientist. My whole deal is digging into fascinating papers on biology, anthropology, and genetics to see what they can tell us about our world and ourselves. Frankly, the story of early onset cancers is one of the most important and urgent scientific mysteries happening right now. So the main question to start is this a feeling or is there real data to back it up? To figure that out, we look to a massive study published in JAMA Network Open. And when I say massive, I mean it. These researchers got their hand on the SEER program data in the US, which tracked cancer diagnoses. They analyzed the records of 3.8 million people. But here's the clever part. They didn't just look at the cancer rates over time. They developed a longitudinal model which grouped participants by generation they were born into. For example, baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials. This allowed them to ask really smart questions. Were you more likely to gain a certain cancer diagnosis based on the year you were born in? For example, by age 60, is a person born in 1981 more likely to get lung cancer than a person born in 1946? It's a way of separating the effects of aging from the effects of growing up in a completely different world with new environments, medicines, and other, advances in technology as the generations progressed. They also deconvoluted features such as gender and race within these models. So what did they find? They compared Generation X to baby boomers, and the results were pretty startling. For women, the rates of diagnoses, what scientists call incidence rates, had significantly increased for a whole host of cancers, including thyroid, kidney, rectal, uterine, colon, pancreatic, and several others. For men, a similar story was seen. Increases in thyroid, kidney, rectal, colon, prostate, and leukemia. And these weren't just blips. These were statistically significant increases in these cancers' occurrence rates.
Oh my God!
Now, before we all panic, it's absolutely not all doom and gloom. This study also showed huge wins for science and public health. For example, lung cancer rates plummeted for Gen X compared to baby boomers, which is a direct result of fewer people smoking through public health awareness campaigns which linked smoking tobacco to lung cancer.
Smoke now, pay later.
And cervical cancer for women, the rates plummeted also, almost certainly thanks to amazing screening programs, so there is good news out there. But overall, when they looked at all of the cancer rates combined, comparing Gen X to baby boomers, there is a clear trend. The rates of incidence of cancers is increasing, so it's not a feeling in the air. There is data to back it up. But this study, while immense, had Generation X as its youngest generation within its modeling. What about younger generations? Unfortunately for millennials and Gen Z, we do not have enough long-term data yet to do that kind of generational comparison within a model. But there is one specific type of cancer where the data is so strong and the trend is so worrying that it's becoming a major focus for researchers: colorectal cancer.
The number of colon cancer cases in U.S. adults under the age of 54 has sharply increased over the last decade. And that's according to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association on Monday. And it found that for every 100,000 Americans, more than 9 were diagnosed with early-stage colorectal cancer in 2019. That figure increased to 17.5 diagnoses per 100,000 in 2022.
This is a devastating disease. It's the third most common cancer diagnosed worldwide and has caused over 900,000 deaths in 2022 alone. And the alarm bells are ringing because doctors are seeing younger and younger patients with this diagnosis. A huge metadata analysis from the Lancet Oncology this year looked into the data from 50 different countries to see if this is a global trend, and the findings were undeniable. In 27 of the 50 countries, the incidence rates for early onset colorectal cancer, that's people aged between 25 and 49, is on the rise, and significantly rising. And in 14 of those 27 countries, the rates of colorectal cancer incidence in young people goes up, while it's staying flat or is going down in older people. So this is a global phenomenon, and it's not happening everywhere equally. The increases were most dramatic in developed countries, while places like Uganda and India were seeing some of the lowest increases in colorectal cancer incidence within young people. So what could be possibly triggering this increase in colorectal cancer in young people globally? There are 3 major culprits for this increase in colorectal cancer we will discuss based on this Lancet paper. The first and most obvious suspect, well, is us. Our medical technology has gotten incredibly good. We have better screening techniques, more public awareness campaigns, and more advanced diagnostic tools than ever before. It stands to reason that we're simply finding more cancers that in previous generations would have gone undetected. And for sure, that's a huge part of the story. For some cancers like thyroid cancer, where the incidence rates have shot up, a lot of that might be due to better imaging techniques that can capture more than in the past. But it probably doesn't explain everything. It doesn't fully explain why colorectal cancer is rising in young people in some countries, while it's falling in older people in those same countries. If it was just better detection, you'd expect incidence rates to go up across the board, regardless of age. So while it's a major factor, and the advances in detection is a win for science, this is not the cause for the increase in colorectal cancers in young adults. So, who is suspect number 2? It's one we've all heard about, the global rise of obesity and type 2 diabetes. The hypothesis here makes a lot of sense, right? These conditions are known to create a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body, and we know that chronic inflammation is like the perfect breeding ground for mutations arising in the DNA, which may contribute towards cancers. Case closed. Well, not so fast, because when scientists looked into the global data, the story started to get very complicated. Take India, for example. This country is seeing a huge rise in obesity and diabetes, yet the rate of early onset colorectal cancer is not increasing in line with this. And then you have countries like Japan and South Korea. They have some of the highest rates of increases in early onset colorectal cancer. but their populations, on average, are much leaner and long-living. So this connection between colorectal cancer and obesity is not clear-cut. Furthermore, drugs like metformin are incredibly successful at controlling diabetes and its related metabolic issues. But large-scale studies have shown metformin application does not cause a significant reduction in cancer diagnoses. This tells us while obesity and diabetes are definitely not good for you, they are part of a much bigger picture rather than being the sole culprit for the rise in colorectal cancer in young people. This brings us to a third and much broader suspect, modern life. The researchers noticed a really interesting pattern. The countries with the highest increases in early onset cancers were often ones which had the most rapid economic development and urbanization over the last 50 years. This points to a massive shift in how we live, work, and most importantly, eat. Take Japan and South Korea again. As they became economic powerhouses of Asia, their diets were completely revolutionized. One analysis showed that the intake of meat in these countries increased by up to a staggering 19 times between 1961 and 2021. This is not a small change, it's a complete dietary transformation away from diets rich in fibers and whole foods towards something else. It's a shift from whole foods to convenient, factory-made products, bringing us to our prime suspect, ultra-processed foods or UPFs.
Oh, donuts. I love to eat donuts.
A 2025 review in the journal Cancers connected the dots beautifully between UPFs and carcinogenesis. How could these foods, the very foundation of so many modern diets, be the missing link in the rise of early onset colorectal cancer and other cancers too? Now, first let's be absolutely clear. What does UPF mean? A UPF is not junk food. This is a specific category of industrial food formulations. Think of it this way, a whole apple is unprocessed. Apple sauce, where lots of apples have been condensed into a liquid, is processed. But a factory-made apple-flavored breakfast bar with a dozen ingredients you can't pronounce, that's probably ultra-processed. This category includes things that are often marked as healthy: protein bars, vegan meats or dairy alternatives, gluten-free snacks, calorie-low yogurts, and look, if you have allergies or specific dietary needs, these foods can be a great comfort and convenience. But as scientists, we have to be honest and ask what effect these foods have on our cells on the molecular level. And the scale of this consumption is staggering. In the UK and US, it's estimated that adolescents and young adults get anywhere between a quarter and a shocking 2/3 of the daily calories from these foods. It's an understatement to say that we have fundamentally changed the way we eat in the developed world in the span of just a couple of generations. So, how do UPFs contribute towards cancers? Well, this review highlighted several mechanistic pathways, and we're going to highlight two of them specifically in this video. Let's break them down. UPFs are known to have a devastating effect on our gut microbiome, and specifically a condition known as microbial dysbiosis. And I'm going to explain that here. Think of your gut as a bustling, vibrant city with trillions of bacteria and consisting of many different types of bacterial species as well. It's an ecosystem that is essential for your health. Your job is to feed them and their job is to keep you healthy. Through your diet, they obtain dietary fiber, and in return, they produce a whole pharmacy of beneficial compounds. One of the most important are short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate are molecular superheroes. Butyrate, for example, is the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. This keeps them healthy. And in addition, all of these short-chain fatty acids are powerful anti-inflammatories. They are the peacekeepers of your gut. But ultra-processed foods are a disaster for this system. They are, by design, often stripped of natural fermentable fibers that are good for your bacteria, and your bacteria need them to survive. It's like a famine for your gut's best citizens. Even worse, many ultra-processed foods contain additives that are actively hostile for this ecosystem. Take emulsifiers, chemicals like carbamylmethylcellulose and polysorbate 80, found in everything from ice cream to salad dressings, have been shown in animal models to literally degrade the protective mucus layer of your gut, making the gut leaky, allowing bacteria to get closer to your intestinal walls and trigger inflammation. In addition, artificial sweeteners such as saccharin and sucralose have been shown to promote the growth of pro-inflammatory microbial species. And this is evident in our bodies. Studies have shown people with high UPF diets have fewer good short-chain fatty acid producing bacteria, such as Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, Rosebury hominis. At the same time, high UPF diet individuals might have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, such as Blautae A and Clostridium symbiosum. These bad guy bacteria are associated with high inflammation and cancer risks. This creates a vicious cycle. Less dietary fiber means less short-chain fatty acids being produced, means fewer peacekeepers for your gut. Add in chemicals that actively degrade the gut's wall, and you get chronic inflammation in the gut. And we know chronic inflammation is a major driver of DNA mutations, which ultimately can lead to cancers. The loss of short-chain fatty acids is just one of the biomarkers we see in high UPF diets, as we see many others, and ultimately the alterations in the taxonomical profiles of our gut is what leads to microbial dysbiosis.
Ultra-processed food is the number one killer. The studies are clearly linking ultra-processed foods and microbiome dysfunction. We just let all these chemicals come into our food system without a proper testing, and the science is now showing that many of these emulsifiers that glue food together, the artificial sweeteners, the sugar alcohols, all these things that you see in ultra-processed foods have a negative effect on our microbiome.
Now, the second pathway which I'm going to talk about in this video is one of my personal favorites, epigenetics. Now, I've done a whole video on this and you should definitely check it out if you're curious, but the short version is that your environment can add or remove chemical tags on your DNA that control which genes are turned on and off. Epigenetics can also influence the level of gene activity. And this is where I have to admit my own past research, and this gets me oddly excited because, I'm a massive nerd. A huge part of this epigenetic machinery is a group of tiny but powerful molecules known as microRNAs, and I spent years of my PhD trying to figure out what these little guys do. Think of them as fine-tuning knobs for gene expression. Let's say we have a really important but volatile gene, an oncogene which we can name cancer gene A. I know, very original naming on my part. Cancer gene A can contribute towards cancers if its activity is too high, but still has vital roles within the cell. And so the cell needs to keep its expression in a perfect Goldilocks zone, not too high but not too low. That's where microRNAs come in. They are the perfect tools the cell needs to keep the gene expression of cancer gene A perfectly dialed in. And here's the crazy part. Studies are now showing that certain xenobiotics, foreign chemicals, compounds found in UPFs can get into our cells and alter our microRNA expression profiles. They can really mess up the levels of these critical fine-tuning knobs. In our hypothetical scenario, a chemical from a food additive can break the knobs keeping cancer gene A in check. Suddenly, cancer gene A's activity could spike, pushing the cell one step closer to becoming cancerous. Now, to be completely fair, this is a very complex and emerging area of research, and the microRNA network has a lot of built-in redundancy, so knocking out one might not always cause a disaster. But the fact that these compounds in our food can interfere with one of the most delicate gene regulation systems in our cells is a seriously compelling molecular link that scientists are now intensely investigating. And it's a powerful hypothesis. If true, there is hidden danger within our foods that is actively affecting our epigenetics and therefore our gene expression profiles within our cells.
Think of ultra-processed foods as more chemistry experiment than consumable. Some of the additives are preservatives, others enhance flavor.
But that's the stuff you can't make in the kitchen. You can't make certain snack foods in the kitchen. You can't make certain energy carbonated beverages in the kitchen.
Fruit, meat, dairy, and eggs are recognizable. Ultra-processed items are not.
It's the foods that your body finds foreign. It has to figure out. It might have to upregulate the immune system. It might spike your insulin, which causes you to want more and not be able to burn fat, start gaining weight around your belly. Like, it creates a disruption in the hormones of the body.
Okay, wow, that was a long one. Thanks for sticking with me. The story here is complex, but the takeaways are pretty clear. While it's nearly impossible to avoid ultra-processed foods entirely out of our modern diets, there is no replacement for whole, natural foods, especially foods which contain the dietary fiber our gut microbiome is crying out for. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the molecular biology of why colorectal cancer and other cancers might be increasing in their incidence rates in young adults. I'm hoping to make more of these longer form videos, and if you're into this stuff, please subscribe, like, and share this video. It really does help grow the channel and keep me motivated into bringing you this cutting edge science. Not that I need a lot of motivation to do hours of work for little reward. I did do a PhD after all. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time for more science.